up, y'all? Hey, what's going on? That's called Melanin with Sierra, Lupita Nyong'o, Esther Dean, City Girls, and Lala. That's cute. Yes, that is really cute. Come on with it. What's up, y'all? It's me, Erica. Go ahead and like, subscribe, and comment. Let me know you stopped by. See, the park is all foggy with a layer of fog in the park. I love it. It feels good this morning. Do y'all feel good? I hope everybody feels good. Sending everybody energy of healing and light and love and chaos. So what's up? What's going on? I was listening to, this morning I was listening to Therapy for Black Girls. I actually posted the image. I should put the link in the comments. Yes. I should put the link in the comments actually. But I'm listening to this podcast called Therapy for Black Girls. You guys know that I always shout out Therapy for Black Girls. That's how I found my black woman therapist. Go to therapyforblackgirls.com if you're looking for a therapist. They have therapists all over like a directory all over the country of black therapists. And it says therapy for black girls, but I think men could, I think it's actually, especially for black men, to sit across either a black woman or a black man in therapy rather than a non-black person. You know what I mean? So just because there's just a connection there that, a non-black therapist would not be able to actually connect. I'm not saying that they're less qualified or anything, but there's a layer to us that in our experience in this country and world that a qualified mental health professional can be able to understand the nuances of our experience in the world as we walk through this world. So it was the episode, actually what happened was the episode she posted an episode on Twitter, but then I went to the podcast page and I was like, I want to listen to this podcast. And it's called Reimagining Single Life, and how we look at black women being single. And so far it's really good. So I don't know if we could I posted it in the community section, but I need to post the link actually. So I was just listening to that right now. And it's called Reimagining Single Life, Therapy for Black Girls, and that was on November 12th, I believe. And I'll go ahead and actually copy the link and put it in the community section so that you guys can listen to it and then get down in the comments and we can talk about it. But one of the things that she said, and I'm halfway through actually, I'm not halfway through. I'm at 30. I have 30 minutes left. I'm at 12 minutes. And some of the things that first thing they touched on was how celebrities give single black women advice. She talked about Steve Harvey, Tyrese and Rev Run had a book out giving relationship advice to single black women. And then Megan Good and Devon Franklin. I want to say Devontae, but I think it's Devon Franklin. And how they're giving and the way that advice is given to single black women and how it looks. So I kind of wanted to listen to it. If you guys want to listen to it with me, hopefully we can get something out of it, because I think we do need to re-image it, because I think a lot of people who are quote unquote single, the way that our community looks at single black women, it's really in an through an unfavorable lens, right? And a lot of the times, again, I always talk about how there are women and men who stay in relationships, mainly women who stay in relationships, whether it be same-sex relationships or hetero relationships, where they stay because how it looks, you don't want to be single. Like, it's almost like I don't want to say like a scarlet letter, like you're single, something's wrong with you, you're less valuable, and we need to change the way that looks, right? So I was listening to it, and some of the points she brought up were, let's listen.
In and avoid certain types of messaging. So that's another site that I would be kind of mindful of.
So are
folks following kind of more.
I'm already in the 12 minutes in, and what she was talking about was how to follow how your news feed looks, how your Facebook feed looks, how your Instagram feed looks, how your Twitter feed looks, and following people that are not sending messages making you feel like there's something wrong with you being single, right? She did talk about single women in relationships who really like to remain single because they're non-monogamous humans, and they don't see the benefit in monogamy because it doesn't allow them the freedom, which is something that I completely agree with. I think a lot of women, and you also have the freedom to do whatever the hell you want while you're dating. And you can, and no one's saying you can't date, right? But you want to remain single, right? And I think a lot of men really bank on this view about women and their desire and some desperation to be partnered in marriage with someone, instead of just realizing, bitch, you can date a whole bunch of motherfucking men. But some women are not like that because society makes it look like you're a slut. You know what I mean? Like, or a whore. You're a whore. You're out here sleeping, dating a whole bunch of different men. You should be dating for marriage and all this other bullshit. But here we go. Girl, if you don't get over with your landscape truck.
Relationship-oriented content. Are they following? I personally love a Jan Levanzant. I know that she can be controversial as a therapeutic figure, but as an entertainer, I think she's quite on the nose. She puts out a lot of kind of interesting content about being single and how to think about single life in a more holistic way. And so those would be some of the places that I would start to think about, and some of the, things to put in your listeners' ear about what to consider when they're thinking about who to follow or thinking about the content that they're consuming. Do these messages actually relate to my life? Am I getting something out of this content? Does it make me feel bad? Is this content actually speaking to some portion of my experience? Or is it, a set of messages that are actually motivating or pushing me towards, experiences that I actually don't want to have?
Okay, so I paused it because I'm just going to share, I'm not going to listen. We're going to break it up because, whatever. So I have an Instagram account that I have where I follow nothing but holistic sites, witches, anything having to do with the occult, anything that I know that is going to feed me, anything having to do with, self-help, self-care, root working, conjuring, all that stuff, and it feeds me, right? And I think a lot of people, because I had another Instagram account that I don't use at all. I left it up, but I don't use it all because I found myself, as I did on Facebook, and they just so happen to be sister companies, or Facebook is Instagram's parent company. I found myself with getting angry and feeling like, God damn, I'm missing out, fear of missing out. FOMO is what they call it. I'm missing out. I was just like, ugh. And then thinking about these people, I know these people's lives, and you're not authentically displaying your life. But just like Wesley Snipes says, people never post their failures. They're only going to post their successes, which leaves a lot of people feeling as if they're alone in their failures. So I agree with her in saying, follow accounts that make you feel good. Follow accounts that are giving you the right messaging to make you feel good, because the way that social media works, and we all know, they manipulate emotions, right? We all know that. We all know it's a big test market, especially Facebook, child. But it's a way to, you're a test, a number. And so you have control of how your emotions are, how you feel. So when you're following accounts that this person leaves a bad taste in your mouth, or you always feel like kind of negative when you're on their page, stop following them. Follow things that feed you, that give you the right messaging. So I agree with her on that.
I'm curious if there are other really interesting themes that have come from your work. I'm sure there are tons, but are there other particular themes that have come from talking to these women that you think it would be important to highlight?
Sure. And so one of the things I want to highlight is just sort of thinking about being single as the kind of motivations for being single. So I believe a couple of weeks ago, you had a discussion about freedom in relationships, which I really, truly loved. And in that discussion, your guest talked about how being, free, or perceiving one's freedom as being a reason why women avoid relationships. I co-sign that and reinforce that, and have found that in my work, is that maintaining one's freedom is an important dimension about why women choose to be single. Because again, I think we like to think about being single as a circumstance or something that has some negative thing that has happened to us, but we overlook typically the agency of Black women in that context, right? I'm choosing to be in relationship, or I'm choosing to avoid relationship. Along those same lines, in addition to preserving one's freedom, I found that women actively choose to remain single to avoid experiences of violence or irresponsibility. And I think we can think about that at the level of an individual partner. Like, for example, I'm going to leave David because he has been violent with me. But my work has found that not only is it, am I going to leave a specific person over here because their behavior was bad, but I'm then going to avoid other relationships going forward because I'm not even interested in having to deal with the stress of negotiating.
No stress. No, I don't want to deal with none of that shit. Girl. Girl, yes.
A violent or irresponsible partner. Again, in addition to violence, thinking about irresponsibility, not being emotionally supportive, all of these potential concerns.
That's violent as hell. Like, I think a lot of people, when we do look at violence and abuse as being physical, and people feel like if they can't see what you have experienced, then you're fine. You're okay. Not knowing that, not ignoring, I should say, because we do know that abuse comes in all forms and violence comes in all forms. Somebody not here, I'm gonna let them talk.
Partnership. Another aspect of being single that I found in my work is that women preserve their single status as rejecting monogamy. And so I found one or two of my participants discussed that they found monogamy restrictive. They found the expectations of marriage and the expectations of a monogamous marriage to be overwhelming. And, one participant I'm thinking about in particular, she had been married for almost 20 years.
Tiny.
Her relationship was abusive.
Tiny.
Her husband expected her to dress a certain way. She described it as dress and look like a mom. And she just didn't want to have to live up to his ideals and expectations of what a partner would be. She was more interested in exploring kind of sexually things that he wasn't interested in. When he ended their marriage, she ended up having 5 boyfriends.
Yes,
she wanted
bitch.
to date this one. This one can take me to the mall. This one can go with me to lunch.
Yes.
This one can take me to breakfast, etc., etc.
Yes.
And she lived independently. She raised her kids, but she maintained a series of dating relationships. And so we can think of non-monogamy as being another kind of reason why women choose to be single. Another important.
Okay, so what do y'all think about that? As you can see, hello, let's blow the horns, baby. Now, if that's just it. Like, she wrapped that shit up real well. She's a researcher, and of course the host of the podcast is a licensed medical professional, behavioral health professional. So you're not getting someone like me who's, just talking about her opinion and life experiences and shit like that. These bitches went to school and shit. These bitches went to school and shit. But yes, I feel like that. I feel like non-monogamy is like when I take those stupid little tests, it's always non-monogamous. I feel, and I believe that it comes from my childhood. I reject authority. And a lot of men approach relationships with some type of, I'm the man, so I control the relationship. And I am the one that makes the rules, and I am the one that and I am the one who let you, telling somebody how to dress. Listen, I've been there. Telling somebody that they can't do this, or you look like this if you do this, you're not this if you dress like this, and it's really sad. But I applaud the lady, yes. And you got 5 boyfriends, bitch. 5 dating, I'm not saying 5 boyfriends, but dating 5 different people. And to me, I feel like when we understand that you can be single and free and still have relationships with men, they don't all have to be sexual. You don't gotta be fucking, what Rodney say, hopping on a dick and doing a full split. Every fucking time he say that, and it just comes out, hopping on a dick and doing a full split. Bitch, I love every minute of it. I love every minute. But you don't have to be doing that with all these niggas. You understand what I'm saying? They could be the one. Here's one for brunch. Here's one who likes the arts. Here's one who likes to go to concerts. Here's one, you know what I'm saying? And I think so many of us feel like, I need to be partnered up with somebody. I need to be looking for a partner. You spend your whole life like the goddamn alchemist looking for a partner. You understand what I'm saying? And you're just like stressing yourself out doing that. And I'm just like, no, you don't have to do that. It doesn't have to be like that. And that's why I was like, we need to re-image how single life looks. And when these niggas understand, nigga, I'm not trying to marry you. Can we just go to the museum? Like, we don't have to be, do what you want to do. Let's just go to the museum. Let's just go here. Let's just go to fucking amusement park. Let's go to the county fair, bitch. Whatever. But it doesn't have to be. I think so many of us, of women, and a lot of men, they feel like I need to be dating for marriage, but more so women. I need to be dating for marriage. I'm dating a whole bunch of men. I might look like a whore and all this other bullshit. But I really am with everything she said. I agree with it 100%.
An element that I think all of us at some point in our lives have experienced but might not have words for is the ways that single status is stigmatizing.
See?
Both in broader society, but also in our kind of smaller social networks. And so one kind of big theme or big idea that emerged from this project was the ways that single status was weaponized against Black women in the context of their families.
Ooh.
Girl, what?
So say more about that.
Right.
So one of the things that we can, so again, backing up as a researcher, I think more about kind of the meanings of institutions like marriage, or the kind of significance that we grant to being single or being married. And we can trace that back to popular conceptualizations of what marriage is, and thinking about kind of, let's put our 1800s hats on and think about kind of the roles of women in general in society, because this construct of the cult of pure womanhood, which I'm trying to speak about now, defines marriage in many ways for women. So thinking about kind of white middle-class women's roles in society being very limited, marriage became an outlet for, or one way to access a middle-class life. If you were married, you had value. If you were married, you could be seen as a pillar of society. If you were married, you were fulfilled.
Didn't I just say that? They look at married women as more valuable. Single women are not, especially women with children, are looked at as unvaluable because some man has rejected you. So something must be wrong with you, right? Okay.
Your roles to God and to your country in many respects. Well, we know that, the 1800s weren't the friendliest time for Black women. So typically, Black women were excluded from this kind of ideal. But the importance of thinking about the cult of pure womanhood is that it defines marriage in many ways. It helps us to shape our ideas about marriage as an important institution for validating women's roles in society. As a woman, because I am married, I now have value. My sexuality is legitimate, my childbearing is legitimate, my kind of public-facing persona is legitimized because of how marriage defines me. We can also think about the important role of how...
Can I tell you how sick that makes me? I think it makes me so sick. That shit makes me sick to my stomach. Thinking, like, just hearing her saying that, and that's really how we as a society operate in terms of marriage. It really makes me sick, and I reject all of it.
Women see each other. And I'm sure you've tended to the question of respectability politics on your show before, but as a reminder, respectability politics grows out of this kind of early 19th century Baptist club movement that helps, migrants from the South, Black people leaving the South, entering the North, integrate into society. And so we get the idea of respectability politics, with good intentions, to help Black people and Black women integrate into new kind of northern spaces. And so this concept and idea has evolved, right? And I think we can all think colloquially or in pop culture where respectability politics rears its ugly head, but we think about respectability politics as being kind of a set of norms for behavior, expectations for women's behavior, expectations for appearance, expectations for decorum, for chaste behavior. And so these ideas about how Black women should behave in society,
come on with it,
chaste, kind of more decorous ways that reflect their position as lauded members of Black communities, and these ideas about marriage as a legitimizing institution for women's roles in society. These constructs come into play in terms of stigmatizing single Black women. And so what does that mean in the context of families? And so that can be slights around, one's fertility outside of marriage. So judgments about having kids before you were married, or judgments about having kids unpartnered, that can be manifest as ideas that you're not capable of caring for children or caring for the members of your community because, again, you're not validated through marriage as being an expert in those arenas. And so I'm thinking about one particular...
Girl, she is really good. Y'all hear this? Y'all. Oh my God. This is so good. Oh my God. I love it. I love it. Thank y'all for listening with me. I hope y'all listen to the whole thing. I hope y'all go all the way to work with me. Come on.
In particular, who shared a really interesting quote about her experiences of being single. Would you mind if I shared this quote with you and your listeners, Dr. Joy?
Please do, please do.
This participant is a 33-year-old marketing executive. She worked for a Fortune 500 company, and she had no kids.
Oh.
And she was, in the context of our interview, describing some of the criticisms and judgments that she encountered from her friends and her relatives. And so she goes on by saying, I have relatives who are like, are you gay? As if I'm single because I'm gay. I
really feel like people in my family probably thought I was gay because I would never bring a man around, never bring a man around, never bring a man around. I have a cousin who everybody thinks she's gay, but she got a man, but everybody thinks she's gay. And I don't know if she is or not, or she's just very, she gives off a lot of masculine energy and very athletic and stuff like that. And it's like, that's really when you come around family, like, you can't even bring a guy with you because now this is your boy. This must be your boyfriend. This must be your man. It's girl. And if you're single, are you gay? I mean, like, why don't you have a man around here? This kind of like, I need the stamp of approval to have some man on my arm. Girl, child, I'm just here.
Cousins who now have babies. Even if they're not married, they have a baby. And so there's like, I know that this person wasn't single at some point because they have a child.
Right.
So I think that's always like the issue of the question of family, like how they perceive your singleness. I had a bunch of aunts. My dad has 4 sisters, and they were all together, and I was holding a baby. Somebody was like, let me get a picture of this because we don't know if we'll ever see. Do you know how to hold a baby? And I'm like, excuse me, I'm single, but I know how to hold a baby. I've dated a lot of guys who are like, so why are you single? Like a what's wrong with you kind of thing? You're damaged goods if you're single. Well, mother, you're single too. So what's your damage? I think it's just like nobody questions men in their singleness. I have an older cousin. He has a different girl at every family function. So there's a rotation there, but nothing serious. My brother doesn't bring his girlfriends around necessarily, but there's no question of his singleness. Nobody is like, is male cousin gay? Is brother gay? Because they don't come with girlfriends. But you know, I'm the one.
Girl.
And so she highlights a lot of really important ideas in that quotation.
How many have had that experience where your family is like questioning your sexuality because you don't have a partner with you everywhere you go, but your male family members, honey baby, they bring a different bitch every Christmas, every Thanksgiving, they got a different bitch, but you, what's wrong with you? And nobody questions them. Nobody questions them. Y'all got different bitches every damn Thanksgiving, every damn. Hey, can you imagine if a woman brought a different man every year? Well, now you're a whore. What are you doing? Why are you not? Girl, honey, this is crazy. This is
again,
good.
Judgment from family. I'm sure all of us, single folks out there have encountered judgments from men that we were dating in the moment. Interrogations about sort of why are you single? Nigga, why the fuck are you single? God damn. You single? What's wrong with you for being single? This assumption that there's automatically some damage going on with you because you're single. And then this expectation or idea that because we are not partnered to a man, we then are vulnerable to critiques about our sexuality. Regardless of our sexuality, do you want someone inquiring about your bedroom behavior or who you find attractive? It's really not necessarily appropriate. Or judgments about one's capacity in the context of families. Aunties in many ways are pulling, we're helping out everybody, right? Because we're keeping kids, we're ushering parents to appointments, we're supporting members of our family who might otherwise not be available. But instead, that childlessness or that unpartneredness is used to basically mark us as insufficient or mark us as deviant, mark us as out of our role. And so one of the things that I tend to in my work is thinking about the costs and implications of that, right? The anxiety that comes with, for example, joining maybe family occasions because you know how you're going to be on the butt of many jokes or the butt of many judgments for the fact you're not bringing a partner.
Please,
or
y'all.
Thinking about maybe taking the lead or asserting yourself in
share in the comments if you've had experiences that she's referring to, because I think I and we're gonna see, because this can't be, the lady is doing research and she can't be talking about one person. This has to be a community thing for her to be able to have enough data to come up and have research for it. So let's talk about it in the comments.
Things that maybe you have been seen as not invited into. So for example, like starting a childcare business or taking on more of a lead in terms of keeping nieces and nephews or friends' kids. And so those are some of the implications that I'm trying to tend to in my work. We also know that this stigma has social implications too. We know that there are implications for Black women encountering stereotypes about single Black women in the context of hiring. So one common stereotype that's invoked against Black women in employment contexts is this concept of the, quote, welfare queen, end quote. This supposedly hyper-reproductive, quote unquote, lazy Black woman who's just looking for an easy dollar or, to partner herself to someone that's going to give her money.
I just want to say that it's the majority of people on welfare are white people. And also, just to add, affirmative action actually supports white women first because they're women, affirmative action. But the way that they frame it in our media and society is that it's all Black people. It's always the Black people. It's always the Blacks, without actually having the facts together and stating that, people on welfare, the majority of people on welfare are white. So let's just put that in there.
Or conversely, these other kind of ideas about single mothers where they're going to just be the hardest workers and will settle for anything I give you because you're desperate for this work. And so these have implications for example, when Black women go up for promotion, how they're evaluated, when in the context of interviews, how Black women are evaluated, in the context of healthcare settings as well, how we're evaluated in terms of our reproductive health and our reproductive choices. And so this idea of single stigma has broader implications than simply just, our interactions with our cousins and our aunts, but also how we're perceived in broader society.
So, Dr. Moorman, does your research kind of get to the intervention space? Like, have the women talked about what kinds of things have been helpful for them or institutions that they found helpful in kind of reducing some of this stigma?
At this stage of my research, I haven't done any work tending to the question of intervention, but I can talk about some of the ways that my participants have pushed back against these ideas and these notions.
Okay.
One of the ways is basically just sort of reframing their own experience and hearing, for example, am I incompetent with children simply because I'm single? No, I'm actually a great aunt, or I'm a great mother. And so maybe kind of speaking back to those ideas internally, evaluating oneself based on one's own skills. A lot of this also is thinking about pushing back against the media representation. We get one kind of consistent, although I have to say Insecure is doing a really good job representing kind of the myriad of experiences of single Black women. Queen Sugar is doing a great job looking at the experiences of unmarried and unpartnered Black women. So there are numerous representations out there that offer more nuance and more depth into the kind of experiences of Black women. But thinking about media literacy as being another domain for this kind of pushback against some of these kind of stigmatized notions and messaging, and really understanding.
So what do y'all think? Do y'all really how do y'all feel about what this lady is saying here? I love what she's saying.
That there's any kind of truth to it, right? But that's the problem with media, is that it kind of creates its own reality and creates its own narratives. And so the more that we are consuming these messages.
Dr. Jessica Moorman is the woman's name that's speaking, this researcher.
Antagonistic or combative, the more that shapes our ideas about the world as well. And so, again, I'm a big proponent. Media, there are any number of things in our environment that we can't control. One thing that we can absolutely control is the imagery and the content that we consume. And so another kind of site for intervention would be just sort of being very intentional about what you're actually consuming, what messages you're tending to, what content you're taking in.
I think that's going back to your earlier comment about social media.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that has been really encouraging, right? Is that people have been, like independent creators are able to kind of share their like short films or different web series or those kinds of things with a wider audience that might not have been able to access.
So there's like 15 minutes left, so I'm going to listen to it. You guys listen to the rest. It's called Reimaging Single Life. Therapy for Black Girls is the podcast. I put it in the community section and the link in the comments, so you guys can listen to it and then come back and leave comments below, of course, and then we can discuss it. I think it's very important for us and for women to understand that, and men too, because there are some men in families who are like, what's wrong with you? Why don't you have a, wife or whatever? You're 50 years old. You're not married yet. What's wrong with you? Stuff like that. So, but for women especially, because we face the brunt of it and we live in a society where it's normal for the partner to, for women to be single. It's a normal thing. And I feel like this idea that something is wrong with single Black women, I think we just really need to get away from, and then also just reclaim it and reimage it, like the title of this podcast is. I think it's very important. So tell me what y'all think. Let's get down in the comments. Take care of each other, protect your energy, and we'll talk soon. Peace. I had to come back. Y'all had to come back. Listen.
Like, how do you open an IRA? Like, are there other themes that have come up in your research around other things that these women are interested in?
in terms of thinking about kind of how we are popularly representing or popularly thinking about being single, we have any number, and I've been highlighting about stereotypes, but any number of common messages. I almost want to leave space for your listeners to chime in the radio. It's like,
what do y'all think?
This is good.
Being desperate, right? Or man hungry. And so, again, stepping back and thinking of a life holistically, not everybody's trying to find a man, first of all. Not everybody wants to be married.
Girl.
Some people are very happy being single, and that was one of the features of the interviews that came out. And so what does that mean? If you're not focused on finding a partner and you're content being single, you're going to want to invest your energy into yourself and invest your energy into kind of being the person and becoming the person that you want to be. And so I think one of the things that really speaks to this is the ways that we advise one another. And so there's a gap in Black women advising one another. And so any number of us can point to advice we've been given from friends, family about how to get a man. But I think we can also point to advice from friends and family about how we should grow in ourselves and how we should focus on developing ourselves as women and establishing security for ourselves as women before we pursue romantic relationships.
Come on
right?
through. Come on
And
through.
so thinking about going to college or getting a degree, getting a professional certification, experiencing the world, working in different kind of contexts. All of these were priorities for my participants. So much so that there was almost kind of a drumbeat or a kind of common refrain going on among participants about, leave them boys alone and just focus on your education.
Yes.
Or, you need to work on getting your degree, work on getting your job, work on seeing the world, work on getting your property.
Come on with it.
Getting your savings together.
Yes.
And at that point, you can start thinking about dating relationships.
Child, please.
And so that narrative, I think, really speaks to the alternative ways that women conceptualize being single for themselves.
All right, I'm ending it there. I just had to come back and let you hear the part because I had to rewind the part where she said, I really want to leave spaces like I'm on the radio, because this was a really good podcast. I'm going to finish listening to it. I have about 12 minutes left. And again, see you guys later. Go listen to it. Let's get down in the comments. Peace.